everyone. This is a video tutorial on how to do in-text citations in APA format, which I know sounds very riveting, um, but I hope this is really helpful for you. I'm going to cover that in a second. Uh, what I want to do first, I'm going to be going through and changing between tabs, which is a little awkward on the Screencastify, but I'm going to try to make it work best I can. If you go into Classroom and you go on to the assignment for writing your research paper, I have attached some resources for you. I have a modeled paper for you. I have some audio that you can listen to if you have poor internet quality with me going over this. And then I also have a video that goes over a modeled paper for you as well. And this was actually a paper written by one of my students from last year who did a really excellent job. So you can do that too. Real students writing this. And then over here is your overview of your paper assignment and your topic. But if you open that up, I'm going to switch tabs here. It'll be a second before I'm in this new tab. Okay, so this is the document. If you scroll down, I have resources, and I'm going to keep updating the video resources as I keep making examples for you of videos as we go here. And I'm going to add some that are made by other people too. Okay, on these documents here, I have a modeled introduction paragraph, I have a modeled abstract, I have a modeled conclusion, and those are annotated as well so you can see what the parts are. So when you get to those sections of your essay, you'll have that. I'm planning on making some video tutorials later today that go over those as well, a little more in depth. Okay. All right, and then we have APA format, and I think I said in my other video that APA format is just extremely ridiculously finicky and just a lot of rules. So if you are a rule follower, this will be a very wonderful exercise. If you are not a rule follower, this will be super annoying. But we do this because it makes it a lot easier to track the data that you have if everyone's using a consistent format. And the reason that college professors are so picky about that is that if you start not following that, it becomes harder and harder to figure out what you're doing as a researcher. Okay, so we have some links here about in-text citations. This is how you cite the information you have in your research. And then I have also over here a short video on in-text citations. I think it's about 3 to 4 minutes, but it gives a really good overview. Someone else has made it, but I'm making this video to kind of provide a longer tutorial. And if you are used to my teaching, maybe that's more helpful for you. I don't know. I'm just trying to do my best here. And then I have some print resources over here. So I'm going to basically be talking you through the print resources here. So I'm going to open this up. Okay, let's see. Let's go over the basics. Okay, this is from the Purdue Online Writing Lab, and it is a really great resource. I want to go over it briefly as well for you because this is actually a really great skill for college to be able to learn how to use these online resources. Because Purdue OWL actually has resources for APA citations, for MLA citations, and also for Chicago style. And those are all just 3 different types of formats for research papers. And we're over here in the APA style. But when you go over this, they have so much information here for all the different sorts of citations and things that you would need to know for APA format. And again, they do the same thing. Actually, they have tons of different styles, not just the 2 I mentioned. So once you learn how to use one style, it becomes easier to use all the other styles. Okay. So let's go over this. This is the APA Citations Basics. And you need to cite information anytime you're referring to someone else's ideas. So not just direct quotes. But there are a couple different ways of kind of having to deal with this. First of all, in APA style, if you're referring to someone's ideas and not using a direct quote, you do not need a page number or a paragraph number. Okay. But if you are using a direct quote, then you do need the page number. That's different from MLA style. So just keep aware of that. Okay. Also, when you do use the page number, you're going to put P period and then the page number. If you have multiple pages, and that's right here, if you have multiple pages, you're going to put PP period and then your multiple page numbers that it comes from. Okay, and a dash in between those. Okay. Um, you're always going to capitalize names and initials. Okay. Um, and you're going to capitalize titles as well within your paper. That's different from your works cited page. Okay. Titles of books get italicized. Titles of articles get put in quotation marks. Okay. When you are actually using quotations from your work, you there's a couple different ways that you can use those direct quotations, and it's going to change how you cite it. Okay. First of all, you could mention the author's name before you have your quotation. Okay. So if you do that, and you might want to do that particularly if you're dealing with someone who's a scholar in their field. So you're showing, it's really ethos. You're showing credibility by doing that. You can put, according to Jones, okay, and then you have your exact quotation. Now, in this case, you're going to put the year right after the author's name. And you do not do this in MLA format. APA format is from the science fields, both social science and other science fields. So the reason you're going to put the year right away is because researchers in the field of science are very concerned with how recent the information is. And so they want to know the time period that this information came from as soon as possible. So you're going to put the author's name, parentheses, the year. You're going to have your quotation. Then you are not going to put end punctuation here at your quotation mark unless it is a question mark or an exclamation point. But if it's a period, you're going to put no punctuation here. You're going to put parentheses. You're going to put your P period and your page number. You're going to put your other parentheses, and then you're going to put your end punctuation here. Okay? And that's always how you do that. All right. You're also always going to put the page number directly following your quotation, even if it's not at the end of the sentence. So here's another example. Jones, 1998. Again, you're going to put the year in parentheses as soon as you mention the author's name. Okay. You have your quotation. Again, you're not putting your end punctuation here. You're putting your parentheses immediately after the quotation, and then you're continuing on with your sentence. So the citation doesn't go just at the end of the sentence. All right. Now, maybe you don't want to mention the author's name in your sentence, and that's okay. And maybe you're doing that to add some different variety to your sentences, so you're not constantly just saying he said, she said. So here's another way to say that. She stated, okay, and then you have your quotation, and then you're going to put your parentheses, the author's last name, comma, the year, comma, and then the page, parentheses, and then you're going to continue with whatever punctuation you need. Okay, so if you're not mentioning your author's name early on, you're going to put all this information after your quotation. Okay, if you have a really long quotation and they're defining it here in APA that is more than 40 words, okay, you're going to set it apart in your paper to make sure that you're being really obvious that you're using a long quote. And this is one of the reasons that you should avoid having a lot of long quotes for the paper length that you are currently assigned. You probably shouldn't have more than 2 long quotes, and preferably less than that. If you're using a lot of long quotes, then you need to summarize and or put that in your own words, okay? Because what that looks like is you're just putting a lot of filler in your paper and you're being lazy, okay? You're just upping your word counts by including long quotations. Okay? So that's obvious to me and to everyone else. But there are times that you come across a quote and it is so powerful that you need to have what the author's saying. So if that is the case, okay, you're gonna, Jones, you're gonna put your parentheses with the year, okay, found the following. Then you are going to put a colon here. Then you're gonna put your long quote. Then you're gonna put your page number, okay, but um, you're going to put your parentheses after your end punctuation. And then you're going to tab this all over one. That way it's really obvious that you're using a long quotation. Then you're going to enter down here. You're going to continue your paragraph. And if you're using the Toolman method, you really should be continuing your paragraph. You should not be ending a paragraph with a long quotation. It means you're not adding any analysis to it. You need to make an argument with that. And you're going to bring your indentation over back against the left. Okay. And you are not adding extra double spaces here. It's just continuing with the regular double space. If you have problems with the formatting here, I would recommend trying an enter and then bringing it over. Okay. Sometimes the formatting gets funny. Okay. If you have a source without page numbers in it, you are going to use paragraphs instead. And this is tedious, but you're just going to count down to where it is. So you guys have a mix of websites and journal articles. If you just have websites, then you're going to put the paragraph number and you're going to put PARA period and then your paragraph number. But if you have multiple paragraphs, then you're going to add S period and have your multiple paragraphs here. Okay. And again, if you're using a table, and I know several of you have data in your journal articles that maybe you want to use, you're going to cite what the table is. And notice here, when it says a meta-analysis of available literature, you're putting right after that, when you introduce your evidence, you're putting the author's name and date, and then you're going to put the evidence, and then you're going to put the table it comes from. Okay. If you are citing something that is not a quotation, but it's information from your article, you are citing it. So, but you're citing it differently. So you can, if it's a short article, you can put according to Jones and the date, and then you're putting it in your own words here. You don't need a page number. However, if you have a really long work that it might be hard to find that information, then it can always be helpful to provide a page number. And then you would do it like you would a quotation. Okay, let's go to a couple other odd situations, and I want to show this to you. If you go here to in-text citations, authors, there are all sorts of different kind of weird situations, but this in-text citation with authors here is going to be probably your best bet to go here. There are all sorts of situations where you have sources that are kind of weird and funny, and you need to cite it differently. So, if you have a work with two authors, you can use a signal phrase here at the beginning, research by Wegner and Petty, and then the date like you would normally. But if you want to add a parentheses at the end instead, then you would put a parentheses and then you'd put Wegener and you'd put an ampersand and the word Petty. You're not going to put the word and here. Okay? If you have more than if you have a work of more than two authors, you're going to do something different. Okay? You are going to use the first author's name, okay? And then you're going to use these words, ETAL period, then a comma and the date. And you can do the same thing here. You can use it as your signal phrase as well. Okay? Et should not be followed by a period. Only al should be followed by a period. Okay. They did have something here. This would be a very odd situation where you'd have most of the same authors, but not all the same authors in two different works, and you can avoid confusion this way, but that's going to be a really kind of weird situation. Okay, if no author is listed at all for your work, then instead you need to use the first couple words from the article title and put it in quotation marks. That is only if no author is listed. Okay. You could also cite an organization, okay, instead. So if there is an organization, like let's say you had the World Health Organization, you're going to use that as the author in that case. But if there's no organization and there's no author, then you're going to just use the first couple words of the article and put that in quotation marks. Okay. You also might have the same information that comes from more than one source, and you can cite both of those. Okay. And you're going to separate your sources with a semicolon to show that that information comes from more than one place. That actually gives your argument a whole lot of credibility because you're showing that it's more than one person that's saying the same thing. That's also a way I saw some of you with your note cards, and your note cards had overlapping information and you wanted to shorten your outline because you had too much information. Well, give yourself credit that you did that work. So you can kind of have the overlapping information. You can summarize what both of those sources said, and then you can cite both of them. And that's a way of showing, like, I did a lot of research. I want to get credit for doing this. I know my stuff. Okay. If you have two authors that have the same last name, then what you're going to do is use the first initial and then their last name when you cite them in paragraphs. Okay. Um, okay. This is a really, really weird situation. I've never had that happen, but there are all sorts of, if you look up your problem with APA on how to cite it, if it's outside the norm, there are all sorts of resources online that will show you that. Okay. Okay. If there's an unknown author, then you're going to use your article title, but if there's an unknown date for your online resource, then you're going to put N period D period, which stands for no date, and that's going to be in lowercase. Okay. And again, here's some information about your paragraph numbers. Okay, I want to show you one more resource that I think is awesome, and I think this is more for the future, especially as you're taking more college classes. But if you go on here on the Purdue Owl, they have a really awesome resource. It's called the APA sample paper. And I liked providing my modeled example for you because it was written by a student and it was using the same outline that you're using, and you can kind of see how that works. But the annotations on this paper are so much better than my annotations, partly because they're color coded. They're really awesome. This sample paper basically shows you everything you need to know about APA format. Of course, it's not loading here. Okay, so it is this paper here. And basically, what the APA has done is they have made annotations with green that explain paper formatting guidelines. So that has to do with like spacing and where you move stuff on the page and your font and stuff like that. And then they have blue boxes that contain directions for citing in APA format. So this all just has to do with the citations. So if you go down through this, there are notes on every single part of the paper. And the Purdue Owl Writing Lab wrote this paper to kind of intentionally show you all the little intricacy rules and how they work. So the student paper I showed you doesn't have all those kind of weird scenarios, but this one does. Okay. And then this paper also includes some writing guidelines that's in red. So I think that's the most helpful resource online, really, that you can kind of go and see, okay, that's what I do in this weird situation. So I have that on your resource list, and I'll show that to you here, and then we'll be done. Okay, this very detailed paper is listed right here. So this is the modeled example from the student from last year, and then this is the Purdue OWL resource. But please make use of those resources, and if you have any questions about particular issues, just let me know and send me an email. Thanks so much.